Islam doing Arrington-Bey. It's around Arrington-Bey. It's October the 28th, 2020. Okay, what I'm reading now is Deuteronomy chapter 15, verses 12 through 15. Okay. This is the Hebrew law. It says, and if thy brother, a Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman, be sold unto thee, and serve thee 6 years, then in the 7th year thou shalt let him go free from thee. And when thou sendest him out free from thee, thou shalt not let him go away empty. Thou shalt furnish him liberally out of thy flock, and out of thy floor, and out of thy winepress, of that wherewith the Lord thy God hath blessed thee. Thou shalt give unto him, and thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondman in the land of Egypt, and the Lord thy God redeemed thee. Therefore I commend thee this thing today. And it shall be, if he say unto thee, I will not go away from thee, because he loved thee in thy house, because he is well with thee, then thou shalt take an awl. So once again, this is, I'm saying, so you might have those slaves, those are in bondage, who wants to stay in bondage for that lifetime. So it's saying you should take an awl and thrust it through his ear unto the door, and he shall be thy servant forever, and also unto thy maidservant thou should do likewise. It should not seem hard unto thee when thou send him away free from thee, for he hath been worth a double hired servant to thee, and serving thee 6 years, and the Lord thy God shall bless thee in all that thou doest. Okay? So that's the Hebrew law. Now I'm going to read one of Abraham Lincoln's proclamations. The National Grand Street Joe Bryant Bay said this is the Hebrew law in layman's term. Okay? Abraham Lincoln passed this proclamation. What gave Abraham Lincoln the power to pass this proclamation, which in this particular proclamation, he is reestablishing constitutional law. And what gave him the power to do this was Article 4, Section 4 of the U.S.A. Constitution of 1787. Okay, so what I'm going to start off is reading. Sometimes you might hear those that speak Spanish. They implement Catholicism talking while I'm on the phone. Where they're dealing, not on the phone, but on my tablet. Just ignore it. They're not a part of it. Usually they might start saying Jesus or have some form of Catholicism, and then all the while saying werewolf, because they're trying to cannibalize. They want to eat. They want to invade, and they need, a lot of them need a green card because they're here illegally. So they use the religion of Catholicism to back up their acts of terrorism, and they're being used by usually those that are unnaturalized, that are in the military, Navy, or Army. So they're not included in this video. I just want you to know that. They could be from Mexico, Puerto Rico, El Salvador, South America. Not all, but too many of them. And all the while they're saying werewolf, take it, stalking the room, mentally invading, sitting in sharp pains, and screaming Jesus. Jesus is love. I love you. Anyway, this is President Abraham Lincoln's initial emancipation, September 22nd, 1862. And once again, a lot of them need a green card, so they're here illegally. I, Abraham Lincoln, President of the United States of America and Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy thereof, do hereby proclaim and declare that hereafter, as heretofore, the war will be prosecuted for the object of practically restoring the constitutional relations between the United States and each of the states and the people thereof, in which states that relation is or may be suspended or disturbed. That it is my purpose upon the next meeting of Congress to again recommend the adoption of a practical measure tendering pecuniary aid to the free acceptance or rejection of all slave states, so called, the people whereof may not then be in rebellion against the United States, and which states may then have voluntarily adopted or thereafter may voluntarily adopt immediate immediate or gradual abolishment of slavery within their respective limits, and that the effort to colonize persons of African descent with their consent upon the continent or elsewhere, with the previously obtained consent of the governments existing there, will be continued. That on that on the first day of January in the year of our Lord 1863, all persons held as slaves within any state or designated part of a state, the people whereof shall then be in rebellion against the United States. So it's saying when you're not in the constitutional fold, then you are in rebellion. So you are in rebellion against that of natural law. Because it's saying that Abraham Lincoln is trying to restore constitutional relations between the United States and each of the states and the people thereof. The Constitution is an organic instrument. Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, including the military and naval authority. So it said even the military and naval authority will be in rebellion against the United States if they have not gotten back into the constitutional fold, if they haven't been naturalized. They are in rebellion. Will recognize and maintain the freedom of such persons. Okay, let me read this again. That on the first day of January in the year of our Lord 1863, all persons held as slaves within any state or designated part of a state, the people whereof shall then be in rebellion against the United States, including the military and the naval authority thereof. Will recognize and maintain the freedom of such persons, and will do no act or acts to repress such persons or any of them in any efforts they may make for their actual freedom. Okay, then it says that the executive will, on the first day of January, 8th, by proclamation, designate the states and parts of the states, if any, in which the people thereof, respectively, shall then be in rebellion against the United States, and the fact that any state or the people thereof shall on that day be in good faith represented in the Congress of the United States by members chosen thereto at elections, wherein a majority of the qualified voters of such state shall have participated, shall, in the absence of strong countervailing testimony, be deemed conclusive evidence that such state and the people thereof are not in rebellion against the United States. That attention is hereby called to an act of Congress entitled An Act to Make an Additional Article of War. So he is declaring war. He's declaring war to restore constitutional rights or constitutional relations to the states and the people. So he said this is an additional article of war approved March 31st, 1862, and which act is in the words and figures following. Be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled, that hereafter the following shall be promulgated as an additional article of war for the government of the Army of the United States, and shall be obeyed and observed as such. Then it says article. All officers or persons in the military or naval services of the United States are prohibited from employing any of the forces under their respective commands for the purpose of restoring fugitives from service of labor, or may have escaped from any persons to whom such service or labor is claimed to be due. And any officer who shall be found guilty by a court-martial of violating this article shall be dismissed from the service. This is how important these proclamations are and how powerful they are. And you see, so you can see why unnaturalized military, or if you're a naturalized Navy or naval or Army military, might not uphold these or take an oath or affirm to uphold these proclamations, because you have to be legit. And many soldiers have died just so that we, as true American citizens, can walk on this landmass without being terrorized, without being violated, molested. They bled. So President Abraham Lincoln is definitely putting a check on the military and saying you will be dismissed in violation. But if you're not in the constitutional fold, then you're not going to respect these proclamations. And so that means a foreign entity, wherever it may come from, a bank, whatever it may be, can use the military because it's not in a constitutional fold. It's not, it's outside. It's a force that has arms that are trained to kill, but not trained to defend the landmass, the citizens on the landmass. Anyway, it says Section 2, and be it further enacted that this act shall take effect from and after its passage, also to the 9th and 10th section of an act of treason. Okay? So if the military is not in the constitutional fold, that means they haven't taken an oath or affirmed to uphold these laws of freedom. How are they in treason? So they are bypassing the word treason, because they're not. If they haven't taken an oath or affirmed to uphold laws of freedom, they're not in treason. They're just being used as slaves, as weapons against those who are in the constitutional fold, or trying to pursue their actual freedom. This is my connection of how important it is to be naturalized. So that means they are being used as terrorists. Also to the 9th and 10th section of an act of treason, and rebellion to seize and confiscate property of rebels and for other purposes. Approved July 17, 1862, and which sections are in the words and figures following. So it's saying that they will seize the property of those, it says confiscate property of the rebels, okay? And it says, and be it further enacted that all slaves of persons who shall hereafter be engaged in rebellion against the government of the United States, or who shall in any way give aid or comfort thereto, escaping from such persons and taking refuge within the lines of the army, and all slaves captured from such persons or deserted by thee and coming under the control of the government of the United States. And all slaves of such persons found on or being within any place occupied by rebel forces, and afterwards occupied by the forces of the United States, shall be deemed captives of war and shall be forever free. Okay, forever free. You see, so when you, if you uphold these proclamations, then you're not going to go around and say, I paid, we paid, he sold you, because those words or that term, that energy don't exist. But when you outside of natural law, and because you yourself is unnatural, then you go around and say these things because you know you're outside natural law. You're not a natural spirit. So natural law doesn't apply to you. So he says, shall be forever free of their servitude and not again held as slaves. This is the point of being in a constitutional fold and upholding these proclamations, I see. Section 10. And you're not going to stalk somebody or stalk the room or the houses and send sharp pains. Possibly more, this will happen less when you have some form of dignity. You're not going to force someone to get sick so that hospitals can make money and be used to do such things. And be it further enacted that no slaves escaping into any state, territory, or the District of Columbia from any other state shall be delivered up or in any impeded or hindered of his liberty, except for crime or some offense against the laws, unless the person claiming said fugitive shall first make oath that the person to whom the labor or service of such fugitive is alleged to be due is his lawful owner and has not borne arms against the United States in the present rebellion, nor in any way given aid and comfort thereto, and no person engaged in the military or naval service of the United States shall under any pretense whatever assume to decide on the validity of the claim of any person to the service or labor of any other person, or surrender up any person to the claimant on pains of being dismissed from the service. So he's putting a check once again on the military. So obviously he knew that the military had the capability of being abusive, being used and being abusive. Abraham Lincoln thought ahead of his time. And here we are now, we are among unnaturalized military, naval, and army services that are being used by foreign entities. He was ahead. He thought ahead. And I do hereby enjoined upon and ordered all persons engaged in the military and naval service of the United States to observe, obey, and enforce within their respective spheres of service the act and section above recited. Abraham Lincoln thought ahead once again of his time. He knew. He thought then, but these proclamations also affect today. And so, as I have given testimony of our behavior that I experienced in being among military men, whether they're the Negro, Black, or African American males, I should say males and females, or the pale skin, Islam. Okay, so that's my read for today on that part.